Hello all, and sorry, bit of a cold today, so might be sounding a little bit stuffed up. Well, here it is, Saints and Sinners, which is likely to be the last book I'm going to review for the Rippaverse. I'm taking Gothic's advice.
No one's forcing anyone to buy the comic. No one's forcing anyone to read it, to promote it. I guess, silly me, silly me. I come from a world where if I don't like something, I don't consume it.
Which sounded remarkably similar to this.
And if you don't like my politics, don't buy my book. Problem solved.
I was actually planning to end with Item 3, but when I saw the motley crew Eric assembled for this book, I had to get it. Clearly this is a cynical attempt to boost sales by milking the supporters of other YouTubers. A good business plan. But is it a good creative decision? Getting a man who said writing a comic was outside his skill set and another who has no interest in comics, or creating an anthology comic in the first place? I mean, why? But let's find out. Before I start, I'm going to comment on how long it's taken for this comic to arrive, based on Rippaverse norms. I usually praise them for their speedy delivery, but this has been really slow. Sure, they have got more books to get out, but I think it's worth noting. Onto the review, and obviously, as it's an anthology, I will do it on a story-by-story basis. First off, Chasing Ghosts by Az, and these people here. Apart from a pointless time jump from a splash page that tells you nothing, typically Rippaverse with vague times and locations, the setup is fine, but there's a lot of story to cram into 15 pages. It's better written than most of the Rippaverse stuff I've read so far, and the dialogue is at least normal, though a bit clunky now and again and occasionally cliched. I'm not really sure who Valdez is, but then she's not really been that consistent a character. She changes from book to book, but you don't really learn anything new about her here other than she's got a bike. So not really any major criticisms from the start, but then you get to the payoff, such as it is. And it's a mess. I really don't know who Valdez is fighting, why I should care, why they're fighting, and what they're doing or trying to do. Sure, I can guess from the worded preamble, and they're the bad guys it seems, but that's not how a story should work. And at the end of the day, this isn't a story in itself. It's a setup for a story. There is a nice piece of character work at the end though. The art is okay, it's stylised, not really to my taste, but it does its job on the whole. Though I get the feeling the artist didn't know what happened at the end either because it goes a bit off the rails. Across to Bear by J. David or Drunk 3PO. And these people. In the preamble, Jay refers to the main character having depth, complexity and untapped potential. I'll possibly give him 1 out of the 3, and this story does nothing to tap that potential. It's simplistic, basic stuff. The sort of thing I was writing in my early teens, as is the character. And the art echoes that. The first page isn't bad, then it drifts in and out of amateurish. Once again, not a story, just a setup, and not much of that. I'm guessing that's what most of these are going to be, which makes it nigh impossible to judge them properly. But I guess there's nothing here that would encourage me to read more. The Weight of Restraint, Eric July. Again, all set up, but at least it's intriguing. It teases a mystery and gives you enough to pull you in. Is Eric starting to learn to write? Weirdly though, the dialogue is nothing like his usual writing. There's still the odd Ericisms, but on the whole it's normal. Has he been listening to the critiques, I wonder? At the end of the day though, nothing much happens. And it happens for 12 pages, which could have easily been condensed. The art is bad. It looks sketchy and rushed. Potentially a lesson in a penciler not inking his own work. But Eric needs to shop around a bit more. There's a lot of talent out there miles better than this. Bone God by Callum Edwards, aka Mauler. I'm not sure what this was supposed to be. It doesn't seem to fit in the Rippaverse world, and I guess Mauler knew that. It appears it was a story he had kicking around and kind of crowbarred in here. I think it's intended to be like a Twilight Zone episode, but the somewhat pretentious preamble promises more than this actually delivers. It's simple and feels very, very familiar. It's like a Future Shock story from 2000 AD. Which would have taken 2 or 3 pages to tell there, and here it took 15. I'm sure I've either seen or read this story before, or at least the basic premise. It was mostly a word salad of squabbling from unlikable people as they wandered around corridors, with word balloons all over the place, and an oblique payoff which, ridiculously, their title lays out for you. It was a bit of an effort to read, to be honest, in no small part because of the inane pseudo-intellectual gobbledygook trotted out by one of the characters. It may have been the characterisation intended, and certainly sets him apart, but man is it a drag to get through. The art is nice, good use of light and shadow, though the faces aren't that expressive, and the artist doesn't really get much chance to stretch his legs. As I say, it's mostly people walking down corridors. The Underdog by the Soska sisters, and these lovely people. So this is Larry Shungite, who appeared randomly in Ison 2 for no good reason, and he's here again, for no good reason. It's a solid enough story. Basic, and I don't see the point of it other than it being a vanity project on behalf of the Soskas, which they seem to confirm in the preamble. It's basically Rocky, if Rocky was a wrestler, and a bit of a dick, though the character is a bit inconsistent. Cliff Richards is doing the art, so you know what to expect. One little push, Will Jordan, aka Critical Drinker. I got confused reading this one and had to go back to check because there's not a massive difference in a couple of the voices. So at the start I thought two people were the same person. It's just not very clear. Nothing much to say really, it's fine, a journeyman story. Well paced, solid, and at least complete, even if not massively original. And sets up a Phantom Stranger Death type character in the Rippaverse. Even though I thought we already had one of those at the end of Bloodruth. Also, don't try and figure out his motivations because it's absent. And in typical Rippaverse style, it references something that didn't happen. I like the art, though a little empty now and again. It does a good job of communicating the story in classic comic book style, though I didn't like the death character's design. So I'm still left wondering what this book was supposed to be. A way of introducing new characters? Wasn't that the point of the Ripperzine? It's not an anthology of short stories, which is what I'd expected. It's what an anthology is, surely. But only two of them kind of finish. I don't really understand how they are tied together either. There doesn't seem to be a common theme, and Saints and Sinners really doesn't fit this collection. Maybe that would become more apparent if we got more of the stories. Overall, I think As Is Chasing Ghosts is the most engaging read, despite potentially being too much story for 15 pages and having a messy end. I get the feeling, despite his words, he has an understanding of the craft. Followed by Eric's story, which is a surprise to me after reading Ison 1 to 3. It nicely sets up a mystery you want to know more about, though it does a bit too slowly and it just needs a better artist. And before you throw barbs, no, I'm not talking about me. Well, like most anthologies, it had the good, the bad and the mid. Would I recommend it? Unless you want to commit to buying more books to get the rest of the stories, no, probably not. So, have you read it yet and what did you think? What was your favourite story? Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And for a change, as it's my last Rippaverse review, I'm going to plug my own book. Marked is a 228-page graphic novel created for a mature audience. A marriage of mythology and the supernatural dealing with adult themes and brutal violence. Peace out.